Trinity Kids, it's me, Pastor Ashley, and it's time for another Trinity Kids episode. Thanks so much for joining me for another lesson. Now, I'm not in my usual space that I have been doing my Trinity Kids lessons from. Usually I've got my bulletin board up here behind me with the books of the Bible, but I'm here at the church, Trinity Baptist Church, and it's awfully empty and quiet right now without you. I miss you guys so much. But as promised, we are going to do a lesson this morning that covers all the books of the Bible. We have been talking about the books of the Bible for quite a few weeks now, learning a couple books at a time about the Old Testament and the New Testament. And today I thought I would come here to the church because I won't have to worry about a tiny bulletin board behind me like I do out of my home studio. I'll have time to kind of spread and space to spread everything out so that you can see the Bible as a whole. All right, come with me. We are going to see this whole thing put together. Okay, Trinity Kids, I'm in this big, empty, echoey space with a big, empty, white wall behind me. Do you want to see where it is I really am? I'm here. I'm in the fellowship hall without you. And here I am in front of this big, empty, white wall. Let's get our books of the Bible on that wall. Remember, from a few weeks ago, the first thing we talked about was how the Bible is split up into two chunks, okay? The first one we have is the Old Testament. The second is the New Testament. Those are the first things I'm gonna put on the wall behind me. Not bad. Okay, now, we are going to start over here in the Old Testament because that's what we've been talking about. So before we move on to anything new, let's cover what we already know. The first 5 books of the Old Testament, they have a special name, Pentateuch. But those books, do you remember them? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Those are the books of the law. I'm going to go here. Books of the law. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to the next few books that we learned, which are Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Did you catch all of those? That was a lot. Those are the books of history. Okay, on to the next ones. We covered the books of poetry. Do you remember what any of them were called? Yeah, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. All right, already this giant white wall behind me is getting filled up with some color, and it looks much better. All right. Then we moved into the books of the prophets, and there were 2 different kinds of prophets. The first kind of prophets were the major prophets, and they were called major because they have big books. And those big books are Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. We're going to start to go down here just because I don't want to bump up on too much. Actually, let's go here. Yeah. Looking good. All right, then there were more prophets, but these ones were the minor prophets, and there's a lot of them. Minor prophets, they are Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. There's a lot of them. All right, I'm gonna put these guys down here just because I don't want to run into the space that I need for the New Testament. Okay, so that's the Old Testament. Let's see if we can say all of the books together. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Into the books of poetry. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. Let's go for our major prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Are you ready for the minor prophets? Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Micah, Jonah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Whew! All right, let's move on to the New Testament. We already covered the first couple of books a couple weeks ago, right around Easter. We covered Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Do you remember what those first 4 books of the Bible were called? They have a special name that means good news. If you guessed the Gospels, you got it right. All right, after Jesus ascended back into heaven at the end of the Gospels, the early church was born, and they had some exciting stories to tell. Those are more stories of history, and the book about them is called Acts, the Acts of the Apostles. All right, now one of those apostles was the Apostle Paul, and he started a lot of churches all over Asia Minor and places that now one of those apostles was the Apostle Paul, who was a missionary who started lots of churches, and he wrote letters to those churches. So the next books of the New Testament are Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. I'm going to read those again. Romans, 1st Corinthians, 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st Thessalonians, and 2nd Thessalonians. Those are the letters by Paul to churches. All right, we're filling up this side of the board. All right, Paul also wrote some letters to people who weren't in churches, but other important people that he needed to write letters to. And those are the letters by Paul to others. Those books are 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, and Philemon. Those letters are often called the pastoral letters. Now, Paul wasn't the only person who wrote letters in the New Testament. The New Testament is full of letters, but Paul's not the only one who wrote them. The next books of the New Testament are general letters, letters that were written by other leaders of the early church to other people. And those books are Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and the book of Jude. All right, the last book of the Bible is a book of prophecy. I've got my little prophecy sign here. One of Jesus's disciples, John, actually the same John who wrote 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, as well as one of the Gospels called John, is the one and same who wrote the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation. That's a lot of books in the New Testament, not quite as many as in the Old Testament, but important books nonetheless. Let's go through them all together. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, and Philemon. Then there's the general letters to Hebrews, James, Peter, 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, Jude, and finally, Revelation. Look at that, all those books together. That's the whole Bible. So why is it important for us to know all the books of the Bible? Well, as we continue to learn how to use the Bible, to study it, read it, obey it, memorize it, and learn from it, it's important for us to know where all of those books are, just even so we can find them in our Bible when we're looking up something to read. It's also important for us to know the different kinds of books that make up the Bible, because that helps us with studying to know why it was written, who it was written to, and how they would have understood it when they heard it for the first time. Understanding the Bible and all that it is really important. It sets us up really well to be able to continue to learn from it as we grow and get older. You might feel like that is way too many books for you to ever be able to memorize. I trust that it's not. You will be able to memorize them. I know that I did when I was a kid, no older than you. But there are some helpful things that we can do that can help us to memorize these books of the Bible. I'm not going to expect you to remember all the things I'm about to tell you, resources that are available to help you learn and remember the books of the Bible. But I will include those things on our Trinity Kids Facebook page, as well as have them listed here on the bottom of this video. And those are things that your mom and dad can be really helpful with taking note of or helping you access some of those resources. There's not too many. The first one I want to highlight are some fun activities that are available on a website called ministrytochildren.com. You're going to want to look up ministrytochildren.com/learning the books of the Bible. There's lots of fun stuff there. Also, you could check out another website called thinkingkidsblog.org/books of the Bible activities for children. There's lots of fun stuff there too. Neat ideas of different DIYs, games, and other things that you can do that can help you to memorize all the books of the Bible. Now, when I was a kid and I learned all the books of the Bible, I did so through singing. A song can be a really helpful tool to help us to remember anything. But in particular, I learned all the books of the Bible through a really catchy song in a production called The Singing Bible. Now, The Singing Bible is old. It's from a long time ago, from when I was a kid in the 1980s and 1990s, which were actually really cool. But you can still access The Singing Bible, and you can find it at thesingingbible.com. There are lots of really fun songs in that production, as well as drama to help you move from song to song, and you'll cover what's in the Bible all the way from Genesis all the way to Revelations, telling the stories, what the Bible is about, and learning it in a really fun and interactive way. So I really encourage you to have fun checking out that resource. But if you're looking for something that's free and also a little more accessible, you can go to YouTube and just look up Freedom Kids. They have 2 songs online called Kids Worship Song Books of the Bible Old Testament and Kids Worship Song Books of the New Testament. And those are some catchy songs that you can use that will go through the books of the Old Testament and the New Testament in 2 separate songs that will really help you to memorize. Awesome. Thank you so much for sticking with me as we go through all the books of the Bible. It's really going to help us as we move forward with becoming students of the Bible. That's all the time that we have for today. I hope that you stay tuned for a really exciting announcement that I have of some of the ways we're going to take this knowledge a little bit further and how we're going to hide God's Word in our hearts. It's going to be... Hey everybody, it's me, Pastor Ashley, and I have a super exciting announcement to give you of something fun we're going to do in the weeks to come that you can participate in and even win some prizes. But before I get into that, I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't heard already, that there is another place online that we can use to connect. Trinity Kids now has a Facebook page. Our handle is @TrinityCFM, and you can find us just by searching for Trinity Kids. That's a place where we can interact. I will sometimes throw up a video there. I'll sometimes post resources there that you can use at home that might be interesting to you. I'll try to get conversations started with some interesting questions that you can respond to. Sometimes there's the joke of the day, all kinds of stuff, as well as links to the Trinity Kids, Trinity Edge, and Trinity Tots episodes that are part of our Trinity TV every week on our main Facebook page. So that's another resource I'd love for you guys to be able to use so that we can connect and interact. If you don't have a Facebook page and you still want to be able to connect with me, you can always connect with me through my email, which is ashley@tbcsherwoodpark.ca, and all of those episodes that are part of our Trinity TV offerings, those are on our YouTube channel as well. And you can check our website at www.tbcsherwoodpark.ca to find out all the information you need about getting in touch with our Trinity Kids, Trinity Edge, and Trinity Tots episodes there. Okay, so here's the plan, guys, of what we're going to do in the weeks to come. On Sunday, in our children's moment, we were talking about Psalm 119, verse 11, which says, "I have hidden your word in my heart, O God." How exciting to get God's word into our hearts. And we talked about how we need to read God's word, we need to study it, understand it, obey it, but we also need to memorize it, because that's another way that it gets into our hearts and gets hidden away. So what we're going to do is some Bible memory stuff in the weeks to come. Each week, I am going to be giving you memory verses that if you recite them and send me a video of yourself reciting it, or you get a parent to set up a FaceTime call or Zoom call with me and you recite those memory verses, your name is going to get entered in a draw for a super cool prize at the end of the month. Now, in Trinity Kids, we have been talking about different books of the Bible in our episodes and how the whole Bible fits together. That's been awesome. In Trinity Edge, we've been covering different topics in the Bible and trying to learn how to apply God's Word to our lives, as well as how to use Bible study tools that you guys can use on your own to be studying the Bible for yourselves. Those are awesome things. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this idea of hiding God's Word in our heart one step further. We're now, Trinity Kids, that you guys know all those books of the Bible, we're going to be learning verses out of each one of those books of the Bible. In chronological order, we are going to make our way through the whole Bible. So, Trinity Edge, if that's something that you guys feel like, I don't know if I know all the books of the Bible, this is your chance. You can watch the Trinity Kids episode from earlier today, and I'm going to do a whole overview of the whole thing, how the Bible all fits together, all the books, as well as provide some resources for you that can help you to remember that and memorize it and be able to recite it. So, if you haven't done that already, you can still do that and get in on learning the Bible in its full scope. Each week, I'm going to give you 2 verses in the Trinity Kids episodes as well as in the Trinity Edge episodes. It's going to be the same verses. So for instance, I'm going to give you a verse from Genesis and a verse from Exodus. Now, each week, if you send me a video of yourself able to recite that verse from Genesis and that verse from Exodus, your name's going to get entered in a draw, which is really awesome. Now, each week it's going to be different verses. So Genesis and Exodus, that's next week. And then the week after that is going to be Leviticus and Numbers. Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. See? Now there's one more way that you can also enter your name in the monthly draw. And that's if you can recite all those books of the Bible. So Trinity Kids, if you guys are working through that, and Trinity Edge as well, you guys are able to recite all 66 books of the Bible, your name will get entered in the draw as well. Now there will be 2 draws, one for Trinity Kids kindergarten to grade 3, and one for Trinity Kids grades 4 through the Edge up to grade 6. If you're confused about what grade am I in, because it's kind of at the end of the school year, we're going to use the grade that you are in right now today, and that's going to carry us through the summer. And things are going to change or shift at the end of the summer as everybody gets bumped up a grade, which is pretty exciting. But for now, we're going to stick with the grade that you're in right now. And there's going to be a separate draw for kids kindergarten to grade 3, a separate draw for grades 4 to 6. Now, if you miss out on some of these verses, that's okay. This is really just to provide something exciting and fun for you to do and give you a chance to get your name into the draw. You can still win a prize even if you didn't have all the verses memorized, but your chances definitely go up the more verses that you have memorized that you can recite. So that's how we're going to do it. Now, if you win a prize, you will hear directly from me. These aren't going to be prizes like an electronic certificate or something printed out. These are real prizes. These are something to be excited about. So if you get your name into the draw, it definitely increases your chances of being the winner of that prize, and that would be super awesome. Now, each month, the verses are going to be different, and it's a new chance to win a new prize. So if you've been memorizing verses from Genesis, up to Deuteronomy, and then June happens, it's all new verses. So those old verses aren't going to carry over with you into the new month, because it's a new month, new things to learn, and new chances to win a prize. All right, now, if you have questions and you want to know more about this or something about this is confusing, please email me at ashley@tbcsherwoodpark.ca, or you can message me on our Trinity Kids Facebook page, and that would be great. So anyways, I hope that this sounds fun. I hope that you guys are excited to get into it. I'm super excited to get into it with you. And let's just hide God's word in our hearts. It's going to be awesome. Okay, take care, everybody.